right, good morning. We are here on this amazing fall day. It's November. Welcome, Facebook friends. Welcome to INPact Academy, and welcome to this magnificent superstar that we get to chat with today, Miss Daria Teller. I'm so excited to have you, and welcome. As everybody knows, perhaps maybe you're new to us, but INPact Academy has been put together to create interviews and opportunities where we can showcase people in the community throughout the world, kids, adults, and businesses who are jumping in to make an impact by doing great things for great people, creating a ripple effect of awesomeness by being a drip that rips and not a drop that drops. And I have had the extreme pleasure of knowing this woman sitting there, who is sitting with me right now for a number of years. And Daria, I am just so excited to have you on with us today. When I heard your information, I couldn't wait to share it with the world. So welcome.
Thank you. I love this. I love this platform. I think it's amazing. I think what you do is amazing. And I think it's so great that you've taken the time and the opportunity to make a platform where people can talk about things that are great. And that's big, instead of all the things that are going on in the world right now. I think it's fantastic. And so kudos to you.
Well, it's my honor because I get to interview special people such as yourself, so it makes it that much better. So just so everybody knows, I've had this extreme pleasure of knowing this beautiful woman for a number of years. Her son attends our summer programs, and we've just connected right from the get-go. She's an incredible parent. She has a beautiful family, and she is a businesswoman. And she's a businesswoman who has pivoted. She's a businesswoman who now, going from the business that she had that she'll share with us to now being a professional recruiter who is truly making connections. And one thing that truly inspired me about the dialogue that we had is that she talked about the fact that people are more than just paper. Yes, and I was like, it's so true. People are people. So would you just let us know a little background about who you are and all of your fabulousness, and then we'll just keep the rap going, girlfriend.
I love it. You know me. You can never shut me up. So It's a good thing, right? So I started working with Executive Alliance because I've known the owner of the company for quite some time, over 20 years, and I've known one of the recruiters there, and they're such amazing people. They're wonderful people. They're not your typical in-your-face kind of thing, and I jumped right in, and they welcomed me, and I love every minute. I love what I do. I started out just sort of getting used to the industry and sort of finding my way, because my background's not recruiting. My background is a software company, a baking company. I've owned several businesses, and that's really my background. And jumping into something like this turned out to be probably one of the best things I've ever done, because I talk to people every day, which I like to do. I'm not shy. Let's be honest. We can figure that out. I'm definitely not shy when it comes to speaking to people. But, I really like to help people be happy. There's so many things, and that's why I love this platform. And that's what I said. I mean, I like it when people are happy. It makes me happy when people are happy. And so, trying to help people find their path, so to speak, and in either a financial way or just a business way has been very fulfilling, to be honest with you. Very fulfilling.
No, that's incredible. And, and I kudos to you for being, such a strong businesswoman. And, when you mentioned the baking company that that was one thing that Derek would come in and provide us with little mini cupcakes. So we were like, Terry's in the house. She's got cupcakes. And, that was just always such a treat and so wonderful. But the minute I met you, you were just that type of person that you exuded just warmth and personality and love of people, and with a beautiful smile. And I think that's so important. And I think, we always talk about that things don't happen things happen for a purpose, on purpose, and for a reason. Right. And I think this opportunity for you purposefully landed you because you automatically draw people to you. You automatically are able to connect people and really make people feel good about themselves. And right now, with everything happening in this pandemic, people have lost their jobs, people have fallen ill. There's so much heaviness that's just going around. And now you have the ability to now help people out of these situations that perhaps they don't know where to go, what to do, and how to get there, especially in finding a new job market right now, when the market right now is so impacted by what is happening with the pandemic and stuff. So how is it that, what makes you love it so much? And what have been some of the stories that you've had where you've truly made an impact in a person's life because you help them connect with something that they needed in their life, for their job, for their family, or whatever that may be?
Well, the first thing you really need to understand is that when someone is looking for a job, there's a few reasons, right? And so the likelihood is that the smallest reason is money. It's not really that. It's that someone's foundation is shaken because you're unemployed, because you're terminated for some reason. The job is no longer a viable job. There are no longer any positions where you were initially slated to be, and those positions have gone under, or a pandemic happens. So who figures that a pandemic's going to happen? All of a sudden, you're gonna lose your job. And so when people come to me, they're in a position where I can relate to them because I feel like everyone's been in this position. So whether you've lost a job or you've lost a relationship, it's really, you become where you feel it inside, internally. You feel that loss. And so what's happened for me is that I relate more to the people than the positions that they're looking for. So I specialize in construction and engineering, and that's all I do. But I relate to people, and people come to me and they say to me, I lost my job because a family member got sick and I had no choice but to take care of them. And so I had to leave the job that I had because I needed a position that would allow me the flexibility of a schedule that would benefit my family, because now I need to take care of someone, or now I really need to move on because this job I feel has capped out for me emotionally. So a lot of it is really finding out and communicating. That's the biggest thing I do all day long is listen. Although I love to talk, the majority of what I do is I listen. I listen to what people are missing, because it's just like a relationship. You're missing something. You're missing something that draws you in to want to be there every day. And listen, a job is a job, and that's why we get paid. But there's a reason that you stay. And there's a reason that you don't call in sick. And there's a reason that you get out of bed and you do your hair and you do your makeup, because you know that you're going to make a difference some way. Regardless of what you do, it doesn't matter. Every position is important. And so I have conversations with people about what's lacking in what they're looking for. So I brought it up. So there was one gentleman, and he just, and everybody, everybody in my office knows about this guy because I just absolutely felt for him. He was an engineer, and he had to leave his job because his wife and his mother both got sick at the same time. And that's a lot to bear. And he was the one providing, everyone was in the same household, and he was the one that he was the backbone of the family. And now they needed him not only financially, but they needed him emotionally to be there. And the job that he was doing no longer afforded him the capability of the time he needed. So again, it's not just about the money. For him, it was about the time. And so he needed to find a job that was hourly. And so he figured, all right, I'll do this for, maybe a few months, a year, 2 years. It turned into 4 years. So now when he was back into the market and he really wanted to get back out there, now he was having a problem getting out there because nobody really was listening to him. This poor guy put himself aside. I mean, and that's selfless. He put himself aside and his career and what he went to college for. He put it all aside to take care of his family. And nobody believed in him. Nobody would help him. And I was so touched by his story that I made it a priority. And 4 years had gone by, and he and I worked together, and I found him the job that they adore him. And again, it was more about understanding why he was where he was and explaining that to the clients and saying, listen, he's not here because he decided to skip out on work. He is where he is at this moment, and we need to help him. And so I try to facilitate between my clients and my candidates why they are where they are, because it's not as black and white as that piece of paper. You know, a resume is just words. It really can't convey everything that a person is and that a person brings to the table. And so I try to take the resume and pick it apart and say, listen, on paper, this is the guy that you want, but in your heart, in your relationship, in where you want him to fit in with your team, this is why he's your guy. And this is the guy that's not going to leave you, because he's not that guy. He's not the type to do that. And so that's probably one of my, I mean, I have a lot, but he's one of my proudest moments because it got him back to where he needs to be. And thankfully his mom and his sister are okay. His mom and his wife, rather. They're okay. Everybody's okay now. So it worked out. It definitely worked out.
That's beautiful. You know what? That's the reason that story even resonates with my heart too, is that you took the time to get to know the person as a person. And I think in this day and age, especially through technology where we're physically disconnected, the ability to even just make those connections in that regard is just so important. And how can we facilitate that for other people? Because like you said, we're all working. We're all trying to make our lives better with the things that we get to do. But how do we truly instill those people connections and the importance of that? And when you're in management or when you're in the front line, whatever it is, people are people, and making those connections and understanding those relationships are really powerful. And another piece of the question, I know I'm asking like 12 at once, is how do we help teach our kids, our younger generation, to start understanding those relationships younger, so when they're going into the job and marketplace, that they're even now putting themselves their best foot forward too, because they're able to then make those connections with people. How does that happen?
Well, I think the first thing that you really have to do is you have to listen. Sometimes we get wrapped up in feeling that it's so important to get out what we want to say. We want you to hear what we want to say. But if you don't take the time to listen to what someone is really saying, you're missing the communication. You're missing that moment. And I think that if we miss that moment, we miss the mark. So I can have a conversation with you and I could be so focused on what I want to say that I haven't heard a word that you've said. And now I've totally missed that opportunity to find out more about you. And if I want to find out more about you, I can better help you. If I'm saying to you, hey, this is what you need to do, and this is where you need to be, and this is what needs to happen, and this is where I think you should go, well, that's never going to work out. And so as far as in my career and in my life, it's important to me to listen to what people have to say. I learned that early on, and I try to teach that to my son. It's not always as important to be the person in the room that knows the most. Sometimes it's okay not to know the most, because you can learn more as people are speaking, and you can learn more from an interaction with someone than you can if you lecture. It shouldn't be a monologue or an interrogation. It should be a conversation. And so I think sometimes, even with social media, I think we lose that. And that's where you lose it in a resume. You look at that resume and you only hear the words on that paper without having the dialogue with someone. I think that's important. And then the second part of your question how do we instill that? How do we take care of that for our children? Well, I know with my son that I literally, I don't mince words with him. I think that happens as well. I communicate with him and I say to him, this is how it should be. When you speak to your friends, you may not want to do everything they want to do, but if you give it the opportunity and you try something they want to do, you may find that you're happy. You're happy doing that as well, and I'm proud of him because he's listened to that and he does that. And so, listen, sometimes, let's be honest, he bucks the system sometimes. We all do. We all do. But I think it's very important to not only to listen, but when you communicate, speak clearly. Communicate what you really are trying to say. Don't just use any word. Actually use the words that actually mean something to you. So, for example, just explaining to some, like my job. Why do I love my job? Well, I love my job because it gives me money, right? That's the last thing it is. I love what I do because I love speaking to people and I love trying to help people. I love where I work because I happen to work with a group of people that's doing the same thing that I'm doing and believes in the same things that I believe in. I work for someone. I mean, Gary, the owner of the company, is probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I mean, some of us are working remotely for multiple different reasons. He's extremely understanding. And I think it's important that he communicates with us. And I think it gives us the pathway to do the same thing as we're working, throughout the day. And he gives us all the tools we need to make sure that we are thoughtful in the words that we choose and what we say. So, I think communication is key, and listening is key at this time.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I would often say, in managing people and working with people and working with kids, whatever it is, whenever there's a breakdown in communication. That's we always circle back around, okay, what was misunderstood, what was not communicated clearly, and we all fall short of that all the time, So it's great that we can go back and reflect on and say, how can I improve and do this better, continue to build these relationships. Now, this didn't just happen to you or for you. You, I believe, have had an incredible role model in your life and an inspiration in your life that I think, I say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So when I was hearing your story and how you were sharing that, it's so true. And I think being parents ourselves, we want to instill a lot of that into our own children, like you do with your son, which I just, how you meet those kids, you're like, I want them with me forever and ever and ever. And they're just beautiful, beautiful children who are just shining. And I believe that all children have these gifts that are just inside them. And it's our job as parents and educators and community leaders to help unleash what those superpowers are and what their gifts are so they can share them with the world. Like that you have found yours. Like what a gift it is that we identify what our own gifts are that have been given to us, that we can share them and use them to serve others, which is just a beautiful thing to make an impact. And I know that was one of those people in your life was one of your parents, were your parents. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, both of my parents, when it came to communication and work ethic, my father worked 3 jobs. We had no money. And my dad made sure that we had what we need. I think he would sleep maybe 15 minutes a night. And he was pretty selfless when it came to that, to give myself and my brother the ability to go to private school. I mean, a lot of these things get taken for granted. But, when you're an adult, you realize, wow, that was a sacrifice. You don't realize it as much as a child. But when you get older, you say, wow, he did. He worked 3 jobs, and that was a lot. He would get up at the crack of dawn and he never complained. Never, ever, ever complained about it. It was just what he did. It was just, that was how we were raised. That was what we did. And he did the best that he could. And my mother was a people person. I get the people from her. My mother loved people. She loved to talk. She loved to be involved. She loved to make people smile. If something was happening, I would come home from school and find my friends at my house, because they would have a problem and they would go and they would sit down. And of course, I'm Italian, 4 parts Italian, so I would come home and there'd be meatballs and, she would make like all these things and, everyone would be home. And so I have a lot of that in me where I want it to be my house. I want it to be where the kids come. And I relate that in everything that I do. We have a group for Christmas that I started, and it's called the Merry Moms. Mm-hmm. And we go, and it's the moms and the kids, and we go from house to house and we carol. And you know what? The kids have a great time, but it teaches them that you don't have to get something in return to make someone happy. And you're singing and you're happy, and you're not getting anything for doing this except the experience of making someone smile. And so I try to instill in my son that, those are good things to do. And we've been doing, I think this will probably be the 4th year. It'll be different. It will be social distancing, of course, and we'll have masks and all of those things. But I think that we will still figure out the right way to be able to do that. We can't really ring a doorbell, but we'll figure it out. We'll do it. We'll make something good happen. And I think if we can all just continue to pitch in and do those little tiny gestures that make people smile, you smile back. If you look at yourself and you're smiling, you wind up smiling back. And I think people hear that and people see that. And in this day and age, with so much that's happening around us and so much unknown in the future, I think it's important that we all do that. So yeah, my parents definitely, my mother and I would sing around the Christmas tree. I did put my Christmas tree up yesterday, by the way.
I saw that. Beautiful. I'm like, there she goes. November.
That's it. Listen, I love the holiday. Why shouldn't I?
Why not? Why wait?
I communicated to my husband that it was important to me, and he listened.
Amen. I love it. I think, who says that you have to put up your tree whenever you want? My daughter actually decorated her room. She's full out of Christmas, like Hallmark movies, very much in holiday. So her room completely decked out already right now. And I'm like, you be you. If that makes you happy, and that's something I love that you said, is that find those things that excite you and light you up so that you can be that person that will share that smile. Because more than mirror neurons, as a baby, when you smile to a baby smiles back, and it's, it's all triggered, within our bodies, but it's so much deeper than that. It's in our soul. And we all know, you've heard me talk so many times about being the drip that rips, that it just takes a smile. It just takes a kind gesture. It just takes a jacket to someone on a cold day, or a Christmas carol outside of a person's door that hasn't seen people throughout this whole pandemic. And I mean, just the ripple and the beautiful energy that one person, a group, can create. And I just love that you do that. And I think that's how this tsunami of positive energy is just going to be felt worldwide. And each person just always does their part. So obviously we all sometimes walk through the sludge, I call it, right? So how do you, and that's why we connected so well, because you vibe, way up here too. So what is it that you do, advice that you could give on those days when it's just like, the world's heaviness sometimes is just kind of landing on my shoulders today, and I want to figure out how to, rise up to the occasion so that I can be there for my family, I can be there, but be there for myself first, because we're only as good as who we are in order to be able to give to other people, right? So what's some of your tricks and techniques to staying above the line and with your positive energy?
Well, it's a twofold kind of question for me, because there's that deep, heavy, there's those days, I've lost both my parents, so there's those days where you really need to acknowledge that something happens. And I think that's number one for me. So I'll acknowledge it, but I don't give myself a pity party. I refuse to be a pity party. So what I'll do is I'll acknowledge what's happening, and I'll say, okay, you're going to have an hour to get over this, or you're going to have a half hour. I literally give myself a time limit. And I say, okay, you can be miserable, but you can only do it for a half hour. And then after that half hour, you're going to put on some music and you're going to start singing. I mean, I love to sing. You're going to start singing and you're going to start dancing, and you're going to figure out why it's good to be happy. And then you're going to look at all of the wonderful things in your life. One thing that we do at home, we literally do it now, and we've been doing it for maybe 2 years, is we try to, and sometimes we're lax and we forget, but we write down on a piece of paper what was great about the day. And so we have a bag that we take out on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, depending upon when we feel like taking it out. And we read all the wonderful things that happen. And it could be just that you got a compliment at a store. It could be anything. But it's just so important to remember those tiny, tiny little things. And so we do that now, and we'll write down, hey, listen, I had a great day. Listen, this is going to go on my list. This is going to be such a wonderful
honored.
Janet. And life is good. Life is hard. Absolutely. Everybody's life is hard. Everybody's got different problems. Everybody's got a lot going on. But there's always a reason to be happy. There's always a reason to smile. So even in your darkest hours, I reflect on the things that are good in my life. And I really believe if you write it down, it makes it so much easier to keep going, right? So motion creates emotion. So the more you write, the more you'll write. And so today I may write 10 things as opposed to yesterday, maybe I only wrote 3. But that doesn't mean that there weren't things yesterday. There weren't 10 things. It just means that I wasn't in that mindset. But when I need to really dig down deep, I look in the bag. I look in the bag and I say, okay, what is it? And if you don't have a bag, make a bag. I think you should. I think everyone should. I think it's a great thing. Make a jar. Just do something that reminds you that those little tiny things, they mean something. They mean something. They mean something to me, and they mean something to you. They mean something to all of us. So anytime I'm in a bad mood or I wake up, because it happens, you keep going, though. The important thing is that you keep going. So, I recommend, though, the jar, the bag, something like that, where you bring those little notes out. And I make my son and my husband do it as well. We all do it. So
Love it.
We do. It's very important to me also that my son knows that he's important even if he loses his job. And I think that's how I relate to some of the people, not like they're my children, but you're important. You are not what you're doing. You are who you are and what you bring to the table. And so just because your table is empty doesn't mean that it won't be full again. You're a person, and it's so important to remember that we're not that foundation that gets shaken every once in a while, because it happens to all of us, whether it's at work, whether it's in a relationship, a marriage, a friendship, anything. It could happen anyway. You could read something that rubs you the wrong way. You're not that moment. You're so much more than that little moment in time.
It's so true, and for some of you, you might have started to freeze because the winds are blowing. So I hope our internet connections are doing okay, but you're back too. So we may have missed a little bit about that, but what I was getting from it is that people need to realize that they do matter. And it's so true when you ask people the top 3 things what they want out of life. The number 1 answer is to be happy. The number 2 answer that they'll say is that they want to be a part of something, to feel connected, and that they do matter, that they're seen. And number 3, will make an impact. So what you're doing for everyone is that you are acknowledging that they are a person. You may have run through hardship. You may have lost a job. You may, whatever your situation is, you are still a person here to make an impact in the world. So let me use my tools and help you. And asking for help shows strength. I think right? I think so.
Yeah.
Do you find those people that come to you and they're like, yeah, my name is so and so, like they're embarrassed, but it happens. It just happens. And to ask for strength is not, ask for help is not weakness. I was one of those people, like, oh, I don't want to ask. I don't, but I've learned over time, and that's why it's so important that we share this with our kids, that it's okay to ask.
Right.
It shows that you're strong, because there's so much that you know that I don't know. People, I think that's where they fall short sometimes, is that they just don't know what they don't know what they don't know. So that's our job, is to let people know that this is who I am. That's why I wanted people to meet you. Like, here's an amazing talent. But if you're stuck and you don't know what you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know where you can go to get somebody to help you, especially with the field and industry that you work with, I mean, what a blessing that is. What a blessing that is. So, love that. I love what you do. I love what you stand for. I love that you take yourself, who you are as a person, and with a passion and a soul and a fire and a desire to make an impact, in another person's life. It's not about Daria Teller. It's all about you as a person who's making somebody else's life better because you were in their presence. You were part of their life, and that's why I want everybody to meet you and use this platform, share you, because you're a drip that rips, my friend.
I love that. I love the expression. I love it.
It's crazy. I have people in the Philippines. I have people in the UK. I have people in Africa. They're all like, "You're the lady," and I'm like, "Yes, I'm drip." I mean, like, I guess if anything, on my tombstone later in life, put a little drip. That's who knows. But it just, that simple little visual of a drip creating a ripple effect, and its rings go. It just resonates with kids, with people, and if that's the message that people can relate to jump in to make an impact, doing great things for great people, then that's the message. And listen, it attracted an opportunity for us to be able to share all of your awesomeness. So I love that so much. What would be your I'm going to leave the last word of advice for you, for anybody who right now is just stuck? But what would be something that you would say to them?
We've all been there, and you're not just a piece of paper. You're not those words that are on a piece of paper. You're worth more. You're worth more, and you just haven't found your spot. And your spot is there. And I'm happy to help people find that spot, and just know that it's okay that you're not in your spot, because you're where you're supposed to be. You needed to go through what you went through. Otherwise, you would never appreciate where you're going to end up. So you need those miserable times. You need those bad times. You need to see where you're not appreciated, because at that point, when you are appreciated, you'll appreciate it. You will then, that's like a tongue twister, but
I know.
you'll really reap the benefits of someone who actually doesn't take you for granted, or someone who communicates with you, or someone who inspires you. So don't worry about where you are. It's not about where you are. It's about where you're going, and how we get you where you need to be so that you feel fulfilled. It's okay not to be fulfilled, because we all get there, but you can be fulfilled tomorrow. There's always another day. There's always another page. So I would say that the first thing that you need to do is acknowledge why you're not happy. If you can figure out why, the possibilities are endless on where you can go.
Beautiful, so true. So now, is there information I can put in the comments as far as an email address or something that somebody can get a hold? Is that okay for them to reach out to you, or something that you said, or they're looking for some opportunity to connect with you? How would they find you, or should we just put it in the comments?
Say it one more time. You zoned out.
Oh, I know, we broke up. Just as far as for people to find you, or kind of find out where you're from, how to get a hold of you.
They can email me at daria@execsally.com, So that's Daria, Daria, at execs, EXECS, allied, ALLIED.com. Or they connect with you, and we'll work it out. You can find me. You can definitely find me. I'm also on LinkedIn.
We'll find you. Okay.
I'm on LinkedIn as well.
That's a good place. Oh, perfect. That's wonderful. And I'll go ahead and share that in case our communication got broken up a little bit right now. I don't know, the wind and the internet and the technology is a beautiful thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? Or you freeze and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely share it in the comments below. I know that there was a little bit of disturbance with internet connection, and I do apologize for that. Out of our control. We just go with it, right? It is what it is, and which is great. But Daria, I thank you so much for spending the time this morning to share.
It's been wonderful.
And again, just touch base and let people know that focus on that which is good in the world, because there's so much of it, and there's people right inside yourself, and there's people all around you that truly want to make an impact in the world and do great things for great people, and link arms with those people. You don't have to link arms with those that don't fill your tank, right? So,
exactly.
All right. Well, you get back to being awesome and help save the world and all the things that you do, and make a couple of
Thanks for a wonderful time.
You're welcome. And give your son the biggest hugging kiss from me, of course, as always.
You know I
will. Okay. Thanks. Bye, everyone. Thanks for jumping in on INPact today.
Bye.
Have a great day.